Well, hello, and here you are at episode 300. Wow, like who knew? Who knew we were going to make it to 300? It's a pretty cool accomplishment, and I'm kind of excited about it. And today's guest, I'm very excited about as well. Steve has been a great friend of mine for probably over 30 years now. We've had a lot of fun together. We've made some pretty good business together as well. And just a great guy, and have a lot of fun with him and stuff. And we had some pretty interesting conversations that went from early lighting all the way through to where we're at today, a little bit about AI, of course. And yeah, we even got into some politics, which was something I try not to do. But anyways, it's a great podcast. I hope you like it. It was fun. Hello, and thank you for joining me today on a very special episode number 300. Today's podcast is brought to you by Mainlight. Mainlight is your go-to dry hire rental provider, bringing you the latest in lighting and stage equipment, from moving lights and control consoles to trusses, LED, and rugged IP65 rated fixtures built for outdoor venues. They have everything you need to make your production shine. Whether it be a small theater venue, an outdoor stadium event, or a TV production set, Mainlight is the partner you trust with the gear you want. In addition to rentals, Mainlight offers new equipment sales from all of your favorite brands, as well as used sales on equipment pulled directly from their rental inventory, and including 60-day depot warranties, ensuring you have confidence in every purchase with 4 strategically located facilities in Teterboro, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Nashville, Tennessee, and Las Vegas, Nevada. You get the reach of a national company with the personalized service of a local provider. Visit mainlight.com today to explore rental options and request a direct quote through their easy-to-use online ordering platform. Episode 300 is also brought to you by Elation, a privately held corporation established in 1992 and headquartered in Los Angeles. All products are developed and engineered in the United States, with sales and support office locations in the US, Mexico, and Europe, and distribution via a worldwide dealer network. Please join me in watching the following Pulse Series video.
Inspire your audience's imagination with Elation's Pulse Strobe Series, designed to bolster creativity and deliver breathtaking kinetic intensity. The Pulse Series empowers designers to create dynamic lighting experiences that captivate any audience. The Pulse Series synthesizes mesmerizing lighting experiences with power and precision, allowing designers to create rhythmic, heart-pounding lighting effects with effortless control. Elation's Pulse Series.
Here we are, episode 300. Who knew? Who the heck knew this was going to last? 90%. I want to give you some statistics here. It's pretty wild. I looked this up because I was like, what are we doing that's so special? And so 90% of podcasts stop publishing within their first 3 episodes. Three episodes. That's crazy. 90% of the remaining 10% quit after 20 episodes. So that means by 20 episodes, there's only 10% left, I think, if I'm doing the math correct. So wait a sec. No, 10% of 10%. So what the heck is that? Anyways, not very many. Not very many are left after 20 episodes. And less than 20% of new podcasts launched in 2025 are expected to survive into 2026, which is wild. And finally, just over 2% of podcasts get a get to 300 episodes, 2%. So 2 out of every 100, 20 out of every 1,000 podcasts make it to 300 episodes. So we're now officially in the top 2% of podcasters. Yay. And speaking of new podcasters, so I love talking with podcasters, people who are getting into it and who need support and help and ideas and thoughts of how to do it. So I'm putting this out there. If you happen to be starting a podcast, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share information, ideas, what gear you should use, what gear you shouldn't use, what platform you should use, just all kinds of things. I'm constantly evolving. In fact, this week you might notice I have a new microphone, and I've gotten away from using a mixing console. So now instead of a board, the microphone plugs straight into USB in a USB hub and then makes its way into my laptop. So and all the DSP now is digital. It's an app on my computer. So instead of going into a console and managing the sound there, I'm doing it through a DSP in my computer. And it just makes it easier to travel. I can use the exact same setup wherever I go. I don't have to carry a bunch of gear around with me. So very cool. But speaking of these new podcasters, so I've had 2 people reach out to me in the last week alone. And one is a friend from racing who's a former GE engineer, very smart guy, very, very bright man. And he's a flyer, he's a pilot. And he moved very rapidly through becoming a pilot, and then next thing you know, he's a trainer and he's training and gliding and all kinds of stuff. He's head first into it, and very smart guy. But he says, hey, I want to start a podcast on aviation. And I've done a lot of research on gear and on tools and on software and stuff. Can you help me? And so originally I thought, this is going to be a half hour, 45 minutes. We've literally got probably 10 hours of talking to each other, just geeking out on new gear, new technology, all kinds of stuff. And at the end, he's using almost the same thing I'm using. It's just he's got this big empty room in his house and he's turned it into a full-blown podcast studio. So it's all really nicely lit. He's got color back there and cool images and pictures and stuff. So I'm a little bit jealous that this newbie who I'm teaching how to do a podcast has already got a better setup than I do. And then the other one is in wellness. He's got a wellness business, and around his wellness business, he wanted to create a podcast. So I'm helping him. So again, I'm throwing this out there. Anybody needs help to start up a podcast, just let me know, and I'm happy to help you, as I always am. And that's for free. I'm not a consultant or anything. I am a consultant, but I'm a dumb one who doesn't charge anything for my consulting. And so what else did I want to talk about? I want to mention that we get support in a couple of different ways. First, from our listeners who can subscribe, share any of our episodes with friends. And that helps us a lot. It increases the numbers. And at the end of the day, people love listening to podcasts that have big numbers. And we're in a very niche industry, so our numbers are never going to be that big. But we'd love for every podcast to get at least 5,000 or 6,000 downloads. And right now, we don't get that. I would say very few get to 5,000 or 6,000. Most will get to at least 1,000, which is still a big number for our industry, but we're definitely looking to increase those numbers. And we can do that by you liking, subscribing, and sharing, pardon me, our podcast. And second, through sponsorship. So obviously you hear at the beginning of all of our episodes, you're hearing these sponsors, you see them come on podcasts and talk about their amazing companies, products, life, whatever. And so through sponsorship, we are able to pay our bills. We're able to pay the lovely Sarah, and we're able to continue growing the podcast. So if your company are interested in becoming a sponsor for Geezers of Gear, you just have to shoot an email to producer@geezersofgear.com. That'll go to Sarah, and she'll reach out to you with more information. I think you'll find it's a lot less expensive and there's a lot more value than you might even know. And as an example, Future Tech that just came out a few weeks ago is wildly popular. It's getting great numbers. And so that's a very high tech. It's made with AI. And that is available currently anyways for free for our existing sponsors. And so we don't charge anything additional for that. So you're getting basically double the exposure, and you're getting your press releases put out on a podcast, which is pretty incredible. So reach out to us if you'd like to become a sponsor. And finally, I just want to really thank everyone. This knucklehead in 2019 decides to go out and do something I probably had no business doing. I started a podcast and thought, you know what? I'm going to have enough interesting stories and interesting people to talk to. And God knows I might get to 50 episodes and it'll be fun doing it. And then next thing you know, it becomes a lifestyle, and I'm doing practically 2 episodes a week right now. So I appreciate every single one of you for listening. I appreciate all 300 of our guests, and I appreciate Sarah, my sometimes co-host and producer, and she does all the hard work to make sure these things go out every week. And I love doing this. I appreciate it. I appreciate the position I'm in. It's a lot of gratitude here, and so thank you. For the first 300, I promise you we're going to do another 300. So you're stuck with me for a little while longer. If I can get rid of this cough. And so today's guest is a good friend of mine for a very, very long time. And he reached out to me a long time ago. It's pretty funny. He reached out and said, Marcel, I don't care what it takes, but I am number 300. I want to be on number 300. And so I said, you know what? Let's make that happen. And so we decided to make him number 300. And I'm sorry, but I got to take a sip of my water because I can't stop choking here for some crazy reason. So today's guest, if you're in England and you're in our industry, you probably know him. If you're not in England and you're not in our industry, you probably don't. I mean, unless he owes you money or something. Steve Watts is the founder and managing director of Abstract AVR. He's a pioneer in LED lighting innovation and architectural, entertainment, and commercial sectors. With over 35 years in the industry, he's designed groundbreaking products like the Twister, one of the most reproduced disco lights, and the VR8 intelligent scanner. From his early days as a DJ and lighting designer in Europe to revolutionizing LED solutions for major brands like Topshop, Asta, Steve has always been ahead of the curve. A licensed helicopter pilot, I've been on his helicopter. It was a scary experience, but we'll talk about that later. And relentless innovator, he continues to push the boundaries of lighting technology, ensuring Abstract AVR remains at the forefront of the industry. I'm really looking forward to this. Please welcome Mr. Steve Watts. Steven.
Hello, Marcel.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, really.
You have the fanciest background, I think, we've ever had on this show, except the last time you were on it.
Well, look, I owe my entire life to the entertainment industry, don't I? Really?
Yeah.
Fruits
like
and all.
Literally, probably.
It was literally. I started in entertainment when I was 13 years old, and I went and bought myself all the kit on my mum's credit card, obviously.
Yeah.
Started my own mobile disco roadshow. Yeah,
and that's what's behind you there right now.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of that's the evolution of it, I guess.
Yeah,
but
it's a little updated. It's got some LEDs and stuff.
But yes,
it looks cool. No, I know you've been in it for life. Like you,
absolutely.
We'll get into how you and I met, but so you were a mobile DJ at 13, and then what?
Yeah, at 13, and then kind of like I guess I became a little bit entrepreneurial. Started trying to build my own speakers, as you do. Sold a pair, blew up on the first night,
and you thought
so
maybe sound isn't my thing.
I learned very quickly that customer service wasn't my strongest point.
Right. Yeah. Well, you've figured it out a bit over the years, I think.
Out over the years that sound was not for me, and I did an awful lot better job with lighting than I ever did with.
Yeah.
I tried smoke machines, I tried a bit of everything over the years, but lighting was the one. And it was kind of a real funny twist of fate. You know, like when you're a mobile DJ, I was working for a high street store selling hi-fis, ironically. And this bloke came down and says, can you sell me a hi-fi? So I played a tape to him, which I was a DJ on, trying to sell him the hi-fi. And he goes, is that you on there? I says, yeah. He goes, why don't you DJ? I says, yes. Yeah. So why don't you become an international DJ and come and work for me in Denmark? And so at like 17 years old, I left home and off I went to Denmark.
That's hilarious.
Disc jockey, right?
Yeah.
Here's the kicker, right? 2 years later, I was in a nightclub called Micmac in Kaltenkirchen in Hamburg, right? Yeah. And this German guy came up to the DJ booth, he's talking to me, he says, "Oh, do you speak German?" I said, yeah, I can speak German. He goes, "Well, I speak no English and I need a translator. Would you like to come and work for me in Disco Lighting Company in Madrid, Spain?" Right? And I went, "Yeah, go on then."
You spoke enough German to be able to translate for this guy?
Yeah, ich kann auch ein bisschen gutes Deutsch sprechen.
Oh,
Not as good as, not as good
sure.
as,
Would you like cream and sugar with that, sir?
not as good as Nick McGeechan, but
Yeah.
all the same, yeah. And that's where I went to Spain and started to learn to manufacture disco lights in Pepe's Copper Luz, it was called, where all the sort of like, you know, the Sattels and all those early adopters of disco lights.
I remember
These were all
Sattel.
the staff that have then gone on and started their own businesses, right? And there I was, and I couldn't speak a single word of Spanish, so that was a real problem because they're all Spanish, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember Dave from Jive Light, who was a massive distributor of disco lights in England, rang up Copperluth and said, "Oh, these scanner things, you know, the motors keep dropping off. Can you fix it?" So I had to go on the production line and fix the problem, then show the Spanish how to fix it, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I learned to build lights.
Really?
Yeah. And then
Interesting.
they put on a commission and said, "Look, you start designing them." So I designed probably a range of 10 lights, including one being, of course, a twister, but it was like times the size. And the way we built it was, the old sort of like sort of spotlight, searchlights, massive big lenses. So I got one of them, a 575 watt bulb, which was discharge.
Yeah.
And then they had these like dustbin lids, I used to call them, right? And we put mirrors all on it and turned it into this huge moonflower.
And that was the twister.
And that was a twister. So when I came back from Spain, I thought to myself, I've got to make one of these for mobile DJs, haven't I? And that's how the twister started. That was the very, very first twister. And we went to Plaza in 1991.
So wait a second, though. Were you abstract by now?
Yeah. Well, when I came back from Spain, I started up in my garage, right? Tiny little house I had, 2-bedroom house and a garage. And that's where I started building the twister, right?
Yeah.
And that's where Abstract was formed, out of a garage. And I used Abstract because it began with an A. And in the olden days, you had the yellow pages. I don't know what you had in America. But
Right. No, of course. Yeah.
Yellow
So it
pages,
was
right?
like AAA lighting,
Yes.
lighting company,
Yeah,
right?
AA lighting, because it didn't make any
Yeah.
sense. AB
Yeah.
was the next nearest one. So you'd come up first on the search, right? And
Yeah.
that's how Abstract, that's why it was Abstract.
That's
and then-
funny.
It is. But the fun thing is, in 1991,
Try explaining that to your kids or your kids'
Yeah.
kids. You know what I mean? They'll be like,
but
"A
the funny
what
thing
book?"
is, right? The thing is that Chuck Davis from American DJ came onto the stand in 1991. He saw this twister, right? And he went, "Oh my God, that's so spooky," right? Because it didn't matter how loud I made the music or how soft I made the music, it still danced to the music.
Yeah.
And it was the circuit that's inside it was an old
Yeah.
dancing flower. Do you remember them?
I don't.
Them flowers, and you make a sound. They go,
Oh, yeah. Those things, right? That's
That-
hilarious.
That's the sound light system in a
Is
twist.
that true? Because, I was going to ask you, like, you always had the best sound to light of, like, the Chinese, the European fixtures. None of that stuff worked near as well as yours did. Your sound to light was just smooth and on time.
Funny thing, right, is I was coming back from Cornwall with my first wife, Marcia, and we'd got about 20 quid left, right? And times were hard, back in the early days. And so it was either the 20 quid were on petrol or I split it. £10 petrol, £10, and I bought a dancing flower. And when I got home,
She
I
probably wanted to kill you at this point, right?
I split the dancing flower in half, right? Took it to pieces all over the floor. She's like, what the hell are you doing, right? And so I said, I need the board out of this, because it's a little 5-volt battery board. And then I took it down to an electronics place and turned it into a Triac-driven 240-volt. Yeah?
Let me ask you, though. You see this dancing flower in the petrol station, and you think, I got to have that. That's my new lighting fixture.
Absolutely like that. And it went, and I went, boom, and it went. And I went, boom, boom, and it went. I'm like, hang on a minute. This is really...
That's hilarious.
So that's why I had to have it, right? And so that
Wild.
Twister, and the Twister was like insanely excellent sound to light.
But did you go to the company that, like, did you find out who made that little chip, or did you just copy the chip, reverse engineered it?
Really like 5 units or something in it. I bits out of it and reconfigured it into a mains triad.
I mean, can you tell me at this point what was so special about it? Why it was different?
What it had was an automatic gain control on it, an AG, which allowed it to go up and down ramp, and then just take the difference between the
Yeah, well, because they usually had a little volume control,
that's right.
And you could either set it for really loud or for really quiet, and it was always screwed up somewhere in between, you know?
And Program Systemi obviously were very annoyed because they had the knob on the back. So so mine had none of that. It was just microphone, and it just went, right?
Yeah.
We sold over
gazillion.
It's retarded amounts. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's way over 10,000 more. It'd be way more.
Yeah.
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 It was that many. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was, obviously the Twister 1, the Twister 2, then Twister 3, then Twister 4.
Well, I remember I used to take the piss because, like, every year at the trade show, every year you'd get up with your suit on and you'd go accept your award for the Twister, whatever number it was this time, right? That's the disco lighting product goes to Steve Watts from Abstract for the Twister 17.
But the fun thing is that and even to this day, every single Chinese light has got the DNA of that dancing flower in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it all started somewhere, right? And that's one of the things probably I like the most about this podcast is almost every person on here is some sort of a beginning of, whether it's a speaker system or a technology or a lighting package or controls or something. All these people were there at the formation of this industry, right? And you were very early in the disco lighting side of things, you know?
I know you often laugh and you always giggle because obviously I've had a major sort of following, of Peter Johansson, but that's only because at the time, Peter was so pioneering when it came, with the RoboScans and all that. It was super pioneering. And every time he brought something new out, it was like, for me, it's great. That's great because I can take that concept now. I can make it even a little less expensive than what he's done it at. Simply a little bit more. And sell a ton of them, right? And
don't get me wrong, I admired the hell out of that guy. Like, it's just that in the end, it kind of went sideways, and I was a victim of that. Like, I would have loved to have continued my career at Komar, but I couldn't. I had to leave because I would have gone to jail, I didn't really have a choice. I had to get out of there. Yeah, I mean, it was... Well, I don't know if you remember, but the CFO for Komar in the U.S., his name, he was a Danish guy. You know his name? The CFO, the guy who was controlling the money flow for Peter.
You say it to me, I'll know.
Bent. His name was Bent. Go figure. I mean, I don't know. Could that be a sign? I don't know.
Yeah. So of course, every time I went to Plaza and I see Peter Johansson and I see Gerard Cohen with it.
Gerard's still doing it. Did you see he started a lighting line? Well, his sons, but Gerard's involved.
Oh, wow.
Gerard's in his 80s now. He's like 82 or 83, and God bless him. He's still passionate about it for some reason.
When it's in your blood, though, you're at it, aren't you?
I guess. Like, he is a peddler to the core. He loves selling things. He loves talking to customers and finding solutions and stuff. And he still loves it. Like, every time he lives in Belgium now, and he flies in through Miami, spends a few days, and always calls me, and we'll go out to lunch or dinner or something. So I still see him.
It's a funny thing. And I believe with podcasts, you can only ever tell the truth on a podcast because too many people know, and then
you'll get called out.
Right. And you're going to get called out. Right?
Oh, hell yeah.
And that's what I love about podcasts because they're so honest and so truthful.
The problem, though, Steve, is as we get older, sometimes I spin a story because I forget, so I just kind of fill in the blanks with what I remember. And people will call me and go, "You idiot. That wasn't Bob. That was John," or something.
It's
and
like,
I'm like,
it's like people like to say Joseph from Robay. Analysts would never have been analysts if it wasn't for me. And
why
that's
is that?
the reality because AVR started all of that stuff. And then it got by analysts, didn't it? At the end of the day, that's the true reality.
I thought it looked kind of similar.
No matter how you want to look at it, it's the truth.
Well, and then they hire your mate,
and then they hire
guy.
Well,
They
yeah,
hired John.
because John, I think it was John and Con, I think, was involved in something. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs. I'm certainly not going to get into the ins and outs.
Yeah.
But, you know,
It doesn't
and
matter
I think
anyway.
the manufacturing then was done over at Robey.
Yeah.
That's how I would put it together. Whether it's
Yeah.
true, I don't know, but that's how I see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think whatever that was became Analyst.
Yeah.
If that makes,
That's it's not that shocking to me, you know. It
no.
like, again, nothing against Roby or Analyst or
You gotta be-
Con or anybody. I like them
I
all.
was looking at their website, Robey, the other day, and you have to admire, don't you? You have to admire how far that's gone from
Jesus,
1994 or 95, when it was
incredible.
they were supplying something like Steinecker or something in Germany.
They
I think.
were. And Komar,
that's it.
Komar. They were making
Yeah.
the low end Komar stuff.
Yeah.
They were making those like the Future Light line. They were making for everyone.
Of course, their growth then was restricted by how well the distributors did, wasn't it? So I guess
Well-
Joseph thought, you know what, I think I can do better than this.
But it was also, and I had this, I'll never forget the conversation, and Joseph, you know, conveniently forgets it, but Joseph and we were at Rimini, and he had his little booth there,
Yeah,
and, you know, tiny little booth back in the corner next to
Right.
Coef or something, you know? And I said, Joseph, why are you doing this, like, white label stuff? You know, this OEM manufacturing for other companies or whatever. Why are you doing this? And he said, well, because, you know, we're very popular now because not everybody wants to buy from China. And I said, but you know, the problem is you have to have the lowest price, because as soon as you don't have the lowest price, people are going to buy from your neighbor or the guy down the street. And there were other companies starting up in Poland, in
I think it was really
in Czech.
bold. I think it was
What?
bold of him to sort of like sack all that off and go, right, I'm going for Robey.
But
think it
we
was-
had that conversation, and we both agreed, like, you have to go out as your own brand, because otherwise you're going to be a low margin company that eventually you're going to get priced out, and you won't be able to compete in this white label market, and everybody will be buying from China. And so at least with your own brand, you can protect it. And we had a great conversation about it.
So maybe it was
But-
you. There was this. Maybe you
No, it certainly wasn't my idea. He had plans, obviously. And he obviously had capital, too, because, you know, to build what he built
You know,
wasn't
I've
cheap.
been to his office, and in his office, he's got every single magazine ever, from every single Disco Mirror magazine, every single
Really?
magazine, every magazine you can think of, it's all there.
That's
So,
a
like,
bit
whole
obsessive.
history of the entire industry. Yeah, he
Interesting.
knows the industry backwards because his research is just insane. You know, in that respect, it beats probably 90% of all manufacturers in that respect. Because I guess it's OCD, isn't it?
Yeah, he really knows the history and stuff. I actually spoke with him recently, sadly, at a funeral for one of his employees and a longtime friend of mine, Craig Burrows. And we were talking about the history of the industry and the history of Roby and how well he's done. And I said, you know, when do you actually sell? And he said,
"Come in though, I don't."
he said he won't. His family loves the business. His family are already working in the business. His kids love the business. And
Employs most of the people around all the towns and
yeah,
surround.
he's not going to sell it. He said, what for? You know, we have enough money. We're good. You know, why sell it? Like, he doesn't need a big payday. He loves the business. He still loves traveling. He loves the business. So why would you? You know, and I mean, as long as you're on top of the world, hey, go for it, you know. But you and I both know, and everyone typically knows, that eventually somebody knocks you off that perch and it gets problematic.
The bubble bursts, isn't it? And it's how you respond to that bubble that bursts, which is the most important.
Yeah.
And we've all had a knockbacks throughout the years, you know.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, certainly for me as Abstract, was a really tough time. You know, when we lost the factory to fire.
Yeah, that was crazy. Was it
that was-
arson or what was it?
No, it was a laser cutting machine that cuts plastics that we believe malfunctioned in one way or another, and we couldn't get in it to put it out because they kind of like clamp themselves down, and the heat was so intense that we couldn't. The lid on the top, the kind of like plastic lids on the top, and once that imploded, then the flames just went woof, and went over everybody's heads. And at that point, it's like, get out.
And was that the same building that I was in years and years ago, where your office was upstairs?
So we're rebuilding now. It's we've got a new place. So now we've got 2 factories now. So one which is very much now, although it's supporting Abstract massively at the moment, Abstract will go back to its original home. Yeah.
Cool.
And the new sort of Abstract, as I call it, will obviously be developing still out all the stuff we do in aeronautical. Yeah.
What's that?
Helicopters.
Oh, so not helicopters, but stuff for helicopters.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff. Lots of stuff.
That's interesting.
So much irony, right? There's so much irony in this, because when we go back to 1990, when I first started, and before that, we was using the lighting off aircraft as the PAR 36s, the PAR 64s. They were all lighting from aircraft. That's what they were, right?
Yeah.
And we used them in pin spots and pin spot scanners and helicopters and PAR, 64 cans, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's what they are at the end of the day. And of course, now it's reversed around, where a lighting manufacturer is now designing lighting for aircraft.
It's wild, isn't it?
Full circle.
It's wild. Well, it's also cool when you can make money off of your passion. Like I tried that for a minute in motorsports. I was like, that's a great idea. And it didn't work. It was a nightmare. It cost me money. But I always like if I'm going to get into something, whether it's boating or something that I'm interested in, I want to find a way to make money on it to pay for that hobby. You know what I mean?
Like, so it's not, is it? It's not. Sounds, in principle, it sounds great, but reality is.
You probably tried breeding horses or something at one point, I'm sure. Or that's another game that's quite expensive. But one thing that you're reminding me of, because I'm not blowing smoke up your skirt or anything, but you've always been an innovator. You've always been an extreme innovator. I'm going to name a few things. So the Twister, as goofy as it is today, and it's a little moonflower, but it did, and I know this because I sold them, it did have the very best sound to light activation of anything. It moved better and it triggered better. The other thing was, Martin ones went like this. That's very erratic. Yours was it was almost like it had brakes at both ends, and it was just really smooth how it moved, It
had what I call elastication.
Yeah, it was just awesome.
Good. We put in acceleration and deceleration curves. Into the software. So
there was that, and then there was the I don't remember which came first, but I remember being at Plaza and seeing your downlight, your AVR downlight.
Yeah.
And at the time, every
100,000
club and restaurant I knew wanted color changing downlights, and there was no such thing, right? This was pre-LED.
Oh, this was an MR16 lamp
with a color wheel.
50 watt, with a color wheel in front of it with dichromatic filters, right?
It was bloody amazing, as you would say. And I remember that, and we had a problem because we couldn't get UL on it or whatever. But aside from that, that thing was the cat's meow. Everyone I showed it to was like, I want 1,000, I want 1,000, I want 100, I want 500.
Of those, it was ridiculous. The first one started off square, and then eventually we molded it and made it round.
Yeah,
and made it tiltable with a tiltable gimbal on it.
That thing was killer.
It was a lovely piece, and
that thing was killer.
Yeah, and the irony is that specific product ultimately ended up in going into retail. As the world's first sort of white track light. That same molding was used as a track light, just without the bezel. Yeah,
so there was that. There was the VR8 scanner, which is to me, that was one probably the most artful, lighting fixtures ever. It was the void acoustics of lighting.
It was the void acoustics of lighting.
If you think of VR8s next to void speakers, perfect mate, right? Perfect.
We sold a lot of them.
We sold a lot of them in the U.S. That's when you and I got together, and I started distributing them for you for a little while.
They went in the main into sort of bars that in the daytime want to be coffee bars and stuff that not became disco bars. They sold to those places brilliantly because they didn't look ugly and
beautiful
on the wall and not even bother switching them on.
Yeah. No, that thing was outrageously beautiful.
It was.
And then, again, you were one of the very earliest, if not the earliest, LED manufacturer who sort of flipped the bird to Color Kinetics and said, we're not copying anything you're doing. We're going to go ahead and sell our products.
Yeah, we're going our own way.
So you had all kinds of color changers and stuff, and managed to sell them. And I know I sold a lot of them in the U.S. as well. And so, I mean, the point I'm getting at, I've also in my career, I've been an innovator, and not that I've actually come up with, physical products that I've made or anything, but I've been behind the scenes saying, make this, make this, make this, make this. And also, one of the things I'm really proud of, and I was talking to somebody from Martin about this the other day, I named the Mac. Like that was me when they came out with that first obnoxious Mac 1200, the big huge thing that caught fire and stuff.
Yes.
Peter Johansson comes into the office in Florida one day, and he goes, "Okay." He brings the whole team together and he says, "Okay, we need to name this new product." And he shows us pictures and brochures and stuff and tells us what it does. And he says, "I'll give you 30 days, and whoever gets it right, I'll give you $500. Or I think it was, I'll give you 7 days, and whoever gets it right, I'll give you $500. And I go, "How about Mac?" And he goes, "What's it mean?" And I said, "Martin Automated Color Wash." And he goes, "That's it?" And so he says, "That's it. That's the name." So he walks out of the room, and I go, "Hang on a sec. Little bit of business here, mate."
You owe me 500.
Yeah. So, Peter was classic for that, though, like offering something that never really turned up, The other thing was he stole your pen. Like, I'm sure he's stolen some of your pens. But I always had a Mont Blanc back then.
Yeah.
And he stole it every time I saw him.
Oh, my
Marcel,
God.
can I borrow your pen for a second? And I'd hand it to him,
He never
not
see it
thinking.
again.
Never see it again.
I remember the greatest Martin moment we ever had at Abstract, because marketing was always a big thing, right? And we always wanted to get one over on Martin, which was always difficult, until we went to the show in Rimini, right? And the Rose and Crown pub, we decided we were going to sponsor it.
I remember. I was there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and then
I was there.
Two busloads of Martin people turn up. And the first thing I did when Peter came in, he put a cocktail stick in his top pocket of Abstract.
Yeah, I remember. I was there. I was with them.
That was just a genius moment.
Yeah. And Ian Kirby was furious. He was so mad. He was pissed.
And we had VR8s everywhere. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
Over the band and everything.
I do. That show was so much fun. I missed that show. But the long point I was getting at was this industry, like, you've done very well. I've done very well. But I haven't done Joseph well. I haven't done Peter Johansson well, nor have you.
No,
and, it seems like the innovators get run over and the other people grab the ideas sort of mid-flight and sell 1 billion of them. Yeah. It's like, look at all the products you designed that Chuck Davies ended up getting manufactured in China and then just selling 1 billion of them.
Remember the rave? Oh, my God. The raves that we sold was incredible. The raves, because it was just totally different, wasn't it? But it was like, it was a take on the Robos app.
Yeah.
Off the price.
No, I remember.
Right?
Yeah, I remember you did very well with that.
I think what it's done for us all, though, if you was honest, is, we haven't really worked a day in our lives, have we? Because just do what, we do what we like to do. And at the end of the day, when I was 14, I was playing with disco lights, and I'm still playing with lights today.
Yeah.
That's true reality, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I can't, there's been...
I'm not complaining.
There's been bad times, sure there has, but, in the main, it's been a fantastic...
No, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying this seems to be how our industry evolves, is you get scrappy pioneers and they create these incredible innovative ideas and come up with all these things. And then, someone who's better funded, perhaps, grabs the idea and says, I'm going to go run with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying necessarily that anyone's stealing anything. They're advancing the ideas, because every great idea requires capital. It requires a team. Sure. It requires sometimes manufacturing facilities or whatever it is, right?
And it takes something brave as well, doesn't it? Because,
of course,
you take a product that's maybe not necessarily your own, let's say, and decide to run with it, and you run heavily with it, you've got to throw some money at it, right?
Yeah.
It might not work out.
Yeah.
100% guarantee, is there? So, I think the people that have run with great ideas do deserve it.
Yeah.
I have no thoughts to say that anybody that's ever followed in my footsteps, I don't feel bad about that. I just see it as I see it actually as quite a positive thing.
So do
it
I.
means doing something right.
Well, no, and at the end of the day, like, it's also the way I was raised, like when I lived in Canada and I was a kid growing up, and we didn't have any money. And at the time, like now in Calgary where I grew up, there's Ferrari dealers and Lamborghini and Rolls Royce and everything, right? There's huge money there. But back in the day, when a Mercedes drove by, I would stop my friends and I'd be like, whoa, look at that. And nowadays people would go, what a douchebag. He shouldn't be driving that. He doesn't deserve it or whatever. Back then, it was like, man, I want to work hard and earn one of those. Like, whatever he's doing, that guy's the man. I want to follow him and learn from him and stuff, right? Like, we appreciated it.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I think many of us automatically go to like some sort of jealousy or something when someone is doing better than you or has a bigger car or a better this or a whatever. And I just don't buy into that. Like, I love what I do. Like you said, you don't really work a day. And,
we will never be necessarily, at the top of the tree, but hopefully never be at the bottom of the tree, right? As long as,
we're not the roots.
As long as we keep pushing on, pushing forward, it's going to be good. And innovation is something that, I've not stopped to that. When we brought out the Abstract X Lite, for example, that's because it all had DMX macros in and was creating DMX to pixel macros. We were the first to do that.
Yeah.
And then, I'm not saying for 1 second that anyone's copying anybody. I'm not saying that. But for certain, I'm sure that the inspiration of some of the American pixel controlled by DMX macros, is definitely has a DNA of Abstract in it. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah. Well, and
there are ones I can think of immediately, but I'm not going to say it.
But sometimes it's not even that direct of a line. Like, sometimes it's because some manufacturer from offshore, let's say, so we're not picking on anyone in particular, but an offshore manufacturer sees your product at a trade show or at a club or at a dealer or whatever and says, oh, this is interesting. I like this. And they'll buy one and they'll take it back to their factory, reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
And then they just offer it to the world, right? And the challenge with innovation for you and for most of the industry today is that it doesn't pay well because you innovate something. And, one of the examples I always use is I remember going to LDI and seeing the Claypaky, I think it's called the Valero Wave or something.
Yeah.
That thing with a bunch of lights and they go like this and they do the wave.
Yeah.
And I saw pictures and a press release leading up to LDI. And I thought, what a stupid idea. Like, what the hell do you need that for? And then I saw their show at LDI and my mind was blown. I was like,
it looks so good.
Oh my God. Like, I couldn't believe what they did with that thing. And it couldn't have been more than a few months later, and Chauvet had one. I think it's called the Wave or something.
Yeah.
And
it's like my son, Sam, he's now joined Abstract. And he wants to show lighting side of things going. He's coming into it slowly because I said to him, don't rush it. And just let's see that you really, really want to do this first before we go mad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I said, look, there's no point in you looking at what everybody else does and go, oh, I want one of them.
Mm.
You're never going to catch them up.
Yeah.
You're never going to catch them up because they've had too much of a head start now, right? So let's just say you take a Roubaix XXY and you go, oh, well, let's make one of them. There's no point.
Yeah.
It's just right. So what you've got to do now is you've got to come up with something that is niche, something that's totally separate, totally individual, that a lighting designer is hopefully going to pick up on and run with, right? Because when they run with it, everybody's going to run with it.
But let me ask you this, Steve. Like, so does it go into your head now when you're thinking of new products like that? Like, I'm going to get a good 12 months out of this. So I want to put X amount of dollars into development costs and R&D and all that stuff because I'm going to get 12 months before it gets copied, and I lose out to the people who are copying because their prices are 50% less.
True reality is, I think that your return on investment has got to come back within 2 years. I think you've got 2 years.
2 years.
Okay. The X-Lite that we brought out, the X-Lite basically was brought out to stick one up pretty much up the Freedom Stick. Yeah, because the Freedom Stick was short and stubby and not tall, right? So, of course, we then became the king of the stick. Right?
Yeah, right.
Right? And what I want to do is take their Freedom Stick and turn it into a high-resolution, superb product, which is what it became, right?
Yeah.
And behind me now, they're X-Lites, ironically.
Yeah.
But they're tall. They stand well on a stage. They look amazing. Everything about them is just a really stunning product.
Yeah.
And of course, then 2 years down the line, maybe 3 years down the line, then you'll see all of a sudden Freedom Stick that's high resolution and got a bit taller.
Yeah.
And that's this industry for you.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
But of course, in the meantime, we've moved on. We moved on to the next level.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. You just got to keep moving, step forward. But one thing I try not to do is shout about stuff anymore, only because I think it's my age, I think.
We calm down a little as we get older.
If I was 20 or 30, I'd probably be shouting about everything.
Yeah.
Where now, I prefer to design something, show it to select amount of people, keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Buy lots and lots of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows I'm doing it. Do you see what I mean?
Well, I mean, the X thing, like you sold a ton of those things. I started seeing them everywhere, and it was kind of quiet. And the other thing is, like, you've never really said, most manufacturers immediately go, okay, now we got to conquer the U.S. The U.S. is the diamond. It's the jewel. Like, we got to conquer the U.S. You've just said, I don't need to. I need these few little countries over here, and I'm going to do, 2 million pounds in this product and 2 million in this product and 1 million in this product. And I'm going to be just fine,
Yeah. And not have pressure, not have the pressure, the monetary pressure, because when many people have said that the US is a graveyard of British companies. And I think there's a lot of truth behind that.
It's not a lie. Yeah.
Everything is different. The customer service has got to be absolutely spot on. Everything is right. So again, be quiet, and just do your own thing and just be quiet about it. And for me, it works. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to put abstract on the top of Trump Tower. I'm not saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it certainly keeps a business like mine in a very stable position. And when you're stable, things stick to you, don't they?
Yeah. What's your model though? Like, are you still distributor, dealer, etc., or do you have like a DTC?
What we've become, I think, more than anything, is I've surrounded myself with like a number of partners. I don't call them distributors. I don't call them that. I call them partners. They're very heavily involved in abstract. So, for example, when we lost abstract to the fire, because we made everything in-house. I mean, absolutely everything we make in-house at Abstract, right? So when we lost the factory, we were super screwed because we couldn't go out to a contractor and say, help us here, because we didn't have any contractors, right?
Yeah, wow.
So I set up immediately within 3 days, 5 pop-up stores where one was a board manufacturer, one was an LED populator, one was and I said to the customers, if you want your lights, you've got to come over and help me make them.
Oh my God.
That's what they did.
That's hilarious.
That's
really?
What they did. I had
cool.
my customers spending, one of them spends over £1 million a year with me, and he was there building lights.
That's wild.
But I said to him, like, look, we've got all you're going to do is worry. You're going to be in your office worrying that I'm going to go out of business, right? If you come down to me and help me, that's going to take all your worry away, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to answer all your questions without you having to ask me anything.
Yeah.
You can know yourself if you're going to survive or not, because you're going to be with me.
That's wild. Wow.
And it worked, and it got through,
Yeah. Well, good on you, man. Like, that's, it's one of probably the biggest things in business is to finish first, you got to, how do they say it? To finish first, you got to finish, or something like that. Like, but I mean, you got to get there, alive. And, my business has probably died 10 times over the years. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like Monty Python, where you're dead laying on the ground and somebody comes in to pick you up and you're like, I'm not dead yet. Feeling better.
I look dead, but I'm not dead. Promise you. I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, to become something you've never been, you've got to become something that you've never, or ever done, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to change your outlook. And I could have laid down and died 2 days after that because I'd lost everything I'd worked for 35 years. Right?
Yeah.
And I could sit there and cry, or, I could say, well, look, weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, how we're going to get, so we put respirators on, we covered ourselves in all this plastic sheeted, and we all, 4 of us, like the main team number 1, 4 of us went in and dragged all the machines out.
Really? So you were able to save most of the machines?
Well, there was pockets. Where the fire had not killed everything, and it was just smoke damage. So we dragged all that stuff out, and we ended up with one of everything that we needed. We probably had
That's wild.
We ended up with one of everything, and by rubbing the bits off the others, we got one working. Does that make sense?
The lighting gods wanted you to continue.
They wanted us to
wanted Abstract to live on.
They wanted us to live on, and it was wild, but we did.
That is awesome.
And so that my message to anybody, right, that when you hit a shit time, right, this is the measure of you. This is a true measure of you, because if you're going to lay down, then you didn't want it bad enough to start with, did you?
Yeah.
You just gotta hit the problem head on, and get on with it.
I just listened to a podcast. The guy's name is Yuri something or other, Israeli guy who founded Waze. The traffic app Waze, or the navigation app, and the whole podcast was pretty much about that. He was like, I died so many times in business, and if you don't allow yourself to die, you never really die, right? Like if you just keep going, and I don't know if you remember on my weekly Zoom calls during COVID, but Mike Strickland used to constantly say, what did he say? He used to always say, you're not dead until you quit. You're basically not dead until you quit. You're not out of business until you quit.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. And so, as long as you never quit, and some days are frustrating for sure, especially as we get older. Like, I wish I had more easy days than difficult days, but it's just not in my DNA. I'm a problem solver. So, at the end of the day, we solve problems, we fix things.
Well, that's it, isn't it? And I think you become stronger as a result of it. I mean, sometimes you say to yourself, but I don't want to be stronger.
Just kill me already, will you? I just want a hug and a blanket. Yeah.
We weren't built that way, and the challenges were obviously clearly sent to try us, and that's what it's about. And I think the future of Abstract is bright, because we haven't, I always say that Abstract's like a beautiful swan on a calm lake, but when times get rough, she turns into a battleship.
Yeah.
And that's the reality,
I was going to say, when you said it's like a beautiful swan on a calm lake, I was going to say, run by a donkey.
That's it. That's about it.
Yeah.
I think the future of Abstract, I think, is, this year, it's all about just getting ourselves back together again and getting swift at manufacturing again after our little turmoil. And then next year, I'm looking for, serious growth again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
doesn't it get, like, I know for me, I'm constantly looking for serious growth, but some days you wake up and you just think, okay, today I'm just going to maintain. I'm not going to grow today. I'm just going to go out there and try not to die.
I think that's an age thing, right?
Well, I have a huge amount of energy still, but I still get tired every once in a while,
But what we have is wisdom, I think, and probably your wisdom's probably saying to you, don't bother.
Yeah, some days I wish it did, but the problem is I love business. Like, I just love the game. I love the battles. I love the challenges. It really, business and entrepreneurship is basically jumping from crisis to crisis. I mean, that's what it is. Everything's a crisis, and you're just jumping from one to the next.
I think the rhythm, it's like the sea in it. It goes problem, 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 crisis. Rob.
Yeah.
Crisis.
Yeah,
And you're
it's-
either just coming out of a crisis, in a crisis, or about to enter one.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's a crazy world. It's it's like my son. Every once in a while, I'll talk to my son about because he's sort of in transition right now, somewhere between being a professional race car driver and realizing that he probably won't make a living doing that, and I might want to start thinking about a different future. And he's like, Dad, should I be an entrepreneur like you? And half of me wants to say, hell no, go work for some big company, give them the problems. Like certainly some days I think, God, it would be easy to just sit back and collect a paycheck, and go home at 5 o'clock and have dinner with my family and not even think about work till the next day.
I think if you're an entrepreneur, and it will come out of you anyway.
Of course. Yeah.
And it didn't, I guess it came out of me at a very early age, but I didn't realize that I was entrepreneurial until probably when I started Abstract.
Yeah.
But I've made mistakes. I mean, Gordon Addison,
of course.
right? Gordon Addison, right, had it set up. I turned up. I was in my Ferrari, right? This is when Abstract was really kicking, right?
Yeah.
I was in my Ferrari, and Gordon Addison says, "Steve, I need you to come up to see me immediately." I said, "All right, mate, I'm on my way." So we flew up there, pick Gordon up. He gets in the Ferrari. We drive off to this like high skyscraper building, and he says, "Look, right, I've got to tell you, I've sold your business for you." I said, "You what, Gordon? Sold your business for you? Serious money, proper job."
That's hilarious.
Right? He goes into this office, seriously. Goes into this office, and the bloke's there, and they're all talking around there, and they offer proper, serious offer.
Yeah.
And Gordon's, nudging me like, "I'm just in 5%, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
Don't forget me.
I was horrified when I said it's not for sale, and the money was telephone figures, right?
Yeah.
And I said it's not for sale.
Yeah.
Right. And Gordon's like, "What do you mean it's not for sale? Everything's for sale, Steve."
Yeah.
So no, it's not for sale. Yeah. And to that, and I still think to this day, Gordon probably still wonders, even to this day, why was it not for sale?
Well,
But,
I did that one time, Steve, and a valuation was given to me for the LED company, and it was a significant number, and I basically had been led to believe by all the geniuses, and I won't mention any names, but at least one of them, that the business would eventually be worth 3 times that number. And it probably wouldn't take more than 3 or 4 years to get it there. And so I just listened to that and I said, no, we don't want that. However, we'll take an investment and we'll sell you 10% of the business now and the other 90% later. And so we did that. We got a fairly significant sum of money for the 10%. And of course, my genius team spent it all into...
That's the problem, isn't it?
All bad things.
All bad
things. And we ran out of money and they no longer wanted to buy the other 90%. And now we're stuck with a company with huge expenses, a big bloated inventory of stuff that nobody needs, way too many employees, a huge building. And, it was like, now what?
Now what?
So,
where do we go from
yeah. So, but I mean, since that moment, I decided if the number is big enough to change my life and somebody offers it to you in cash today, take it. Take the damn number. What are you doing? Don't be a hero and take the freaking money.
Yeah.
But that depends on age and where you're at in your life and your career and stuff.
When you're building a business like we've both done, you are very personally attached to it. I don't think there's this sort of, you can't be attached to business. I don't believe that. I think you're very attached to business, right?
Yeah.
And so you see it like your own kids, don't you? In a funny sort of way, but in a financial way, right? Mm-hmm. And you will stick in and dig in to save that business or do whatever you got to do with it.
Of course, yeah.
And that's just what it is. And I'm sure there are plenty of people that are in business that would watch this podcast, for example, that sit there and think, you know what? I could have been out of this 10 times, but I'm still in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's 2 things. There's the draw of becoming more successful than you are now. There's the fear of not achieving what you set out to do, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
There's two things right there, because
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
people don't want to fail, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But failure is sometimes inevitable, right? And sometimes you've
Yeah.
got to fail fast and fail hard in order to become super successful.
Yeah. I don't know, though. As I get older, all the other things in life become equally, if not more important than building the biggest business in the world or whatever. Like it gets to a point where you're thinking, I'd like to do some other things. I'd like to maybe do this or do that or do whatever. And, the problem is I'm too stubborn. Like, I just love my business. I love growing my business. I believe in the future of the business and all of that stuff. So it keeps me from, making any of those crazy moves. But, I've kind of set a timeline now for myself. Yeah. I've said at X period, I'm selling the business for whatever it's worth at that time. I'll start putting it up for sale a year before that. And basically, when I get to a number that I think is at least X, then I'm selling the business, and period. That's it. So at that time, one day after that time, I will have sold my business. And I'm not going to tell you when that is, because that way in my own head, I can change it and nobody will know.
Right. You can move it around.
I can move it around, kick it down the road a couple more years. I'm just about there.
Well, I think you must be very proud of yourself, and you must congratulate yourself for 300 podcasts.
Yeah, that one too.
Isn't that?
It's pretty funny.
It is, really. I mean, for you to stick in and to achieve 300, I think.
Yeah.
Massive.
You know what? And some days it's not easy, but it's always fun. I mean, I love doing it. I love doing this. Like I was telling, I think I was telling my girlfriend the other day or someone that if and when I sell my company, I'm going to keep doing podcasts. Yeah. Because I just love doing it. I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. I love helping people. So I'll keep doing it.
I think it's incredible, though, because many people will get to a certain stage, but you've pushed through that barrier. And you've hit that incredible number. I mean, 300.
I read the statistics in the intro of this podcast, but I'll tell you right now, 90% of podcasts stop publishing within how many episodes?
10?
3.
3?
3.
Oh.
90% stop within their first 3, and then 90% of the remaining 10% quit after 20 episodes.
Shows you, doesn't it?
And it says less than 20% of new podcasts launched in 25 are expected to survive into 26. Less than 20%. And just over 2% get to 300 episodes. So I'm in the top 2% of all podcasters.
You just hit it. It. Well, the top 2%.
Yeah. I'm in the top 2%. How good is that?
I think that's fantastic, isn't it?
Well, the thing was, like, I started it before COVID. So I didn't start it because I was bored. I started it with a purpose. And that purpose didn't change when I went through COVID. So I know a lot of other people who started podcasts during COVID because they were bored and they had some stories to tell, and that was great. But then they went away as soon as work came back, right? Mine, I've always 100%. Found a way to make time and make it work. And now I've got this lovely lady, Sarah, who's taking care of most of the stuff that I don't have time to do anymore. And so it works out great. It's fun. I love it.
Well done, and congratulations on that. I think.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it was funny. You reached out to me a while back and said, I want to be the 300th podcast.
I want to be number 300 because that puts you into the 2% club.
There you go. You're in the 2% club now. There you go. Well, you know what? We should do it again at 500.
Yeah, too right.
We should do it again at 500.
500 is the next milestone, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Maybe 301 is the next milestone. I don't know. Who knows,
You never know, do you?
Yeah.
Right.
But your business, Abstract, is what, 35 now, right?
35 years, yeah.
That's wild.
And I don't think there's many companies that survive 35 years. So, I feel
a tremendous accomplishment
with still a purpose. I think we're changing lives for various people in various industry marketplaces. Like I said, we're doing it quietly, which is the way I want to be. I think abstract writing will be more noisy when Sam sort of takes the helm of that. I just want to make sure that, he has the correct mental mindset, before he sort of goes polling in.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you've got a great brand, you've got great pedigree, great history. One of the things that I admire about you and about Abstract is you've always been very stubborn to a point of it will always be made in-house. It will always be made in the UK.
That's where it is.
Like, let's face it, the Twister could have quite easily been made in China, which it was by 50 other companies. But
100%,
yeah, I mean, you could have probably made it for 60, 70% less in China, in a sense. But, you know, you said, I'm a UK company. It's going to be built in the UK, in my factory, by my standards. And, you know, you've always been very proud of that. You haven't hidden the fact at all that it's built in the UK.
Everything. We still, you know, still to this day, we're still manufacturing away. We've got all our own base machines, our own, you know, everything, metal facilities, powder coat. You know, we've rebuilt all of that over the last year and got all that all functioning again. We're making another big investment this year in a new plant that's being installed into Westfield, our original manufacturing place. So it's going to modernise that substantially.
When will that building be ready?
We hope it be reopening April 25.
Oh wow! Very soon, a couple months from now.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Good for you. Well, good luck on that.
You know, then we'll seriously start to make a bit of noise. Yeah. Abstract's now become ETL listed. So
beautiful!
We can take on the American market.
Beautiful
for that.
That's a big step, because I know we've tried, you know, and it was always expensive and painful. They don't make it easy, which is funny, because if it's made in China, it's quite easy to get ETL or UL approval on fixtures.
I think there's a lot of, you know, I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors regarding that.
Yeah.
I think like the logo on, but whether
it's true.
The criteria to get ETL is quite challenging, and we get inspected every quarter.
Yeah.
You know, and they go through everything. I mean everything. You know,
but I don't know how that process works for the larger Chinese brands, you know, that are doing it properly, like the Elations and Chauvets and stuff. I don't know. I think, don't they have to get tested even in their US facilities?
Must do, but I don't know, because all I can tell you is that if you want to change, let's say for example, you want to change an LED out, right? Yeah. You've then you've got to change that out, and that goes for a certification process, costs you like £1,000 just to change one nut over, if you know what I mean. So, you know, the way that manufacturing is done in the Far East, to be changing stuff here, there, and everywhere, I would imagine.
Right.
So, you know, I don't know how to do it, but
me neither.
No, it's very tight, but we've got our number, and we're getting ready to manufacture now under the ETL certification.
Oh, good for you! Congrats! Yeah, that's a big change.
Through Q2 this year, we're gonna start our first US manufacturing, which is up to US manufacturing standards. Yeah. So we are coming.
Yeah,
but we're coming quietly.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Coming quietly.
Quietly.
Well, if you want to borrow my garage to store your inventory or something, just let me know. You know.
But I think there's something about quiet, you know, there's something about it that just allows you to just get on with your business day to day without being when you stick your head above the parapet, you know, you've got a chance of getting shot at, haven't you?
Well, the other thing is, instead of saying I need to deal with all 100,000 customers out there, what you're saying is basically, no, I just need to deal with the 2,000 best ones, the ones that are a best fit for me, and I'm the best fit for them, right?
Yes, and that's it. And that's done here in the UK, and it's paid dividends to do that. So I want to roll that now out into the US. It's the right move for us with the pedigree we've got now and with the certification. You know, we're coming. Yeah. So and I'd like to.
Good luck to you, man. I obviously like you a lot, and I like the brand a lot, and I always believe there's room, you know. It's just like I was talking with Gerard, you know. Gerard said he's always talking to me about this lighting brand that he's got. And, you know, it's always about finding the business model that makes sense to a group of customers that are big enough to make you successful given your model, right? So not everyone can be a $50 million or $100 million company, but if you're targeting 5 million, now you've got a lot more options open up to you on how you get to those 5 million.
That's it. if you think, right, our business model has always been to try to make 20% net profit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're turning over 5 million, you're making £1 million net profit, aren't you?
Yeah.
And as one individual, why do you ever need any more than that? It's not necessary.
If you have a kid in horses or motorsports,
Well,
perhaps,
yeah, but right. Look, I
then you need more than that.
have one that is in that, but I've slowly got away from that because it's
Me too.
too
Yeah, me too. Me too. Trust me. I went through that over the past couple of years. I had to say, Jeremy,
I genuinely think that helicopters are cheaper.
it's probably true. Well, and by the way, you could make money with a helicopter. You can't make money with a race or with a show jumping horse or a dressage horse or something.
I've been flying for 25 years, and in that 25 years, it's probably cost me no more than to own helicopters than would to own a Range Rover. In true reality,
Really?
The depreciation is no worse, and the running costs are not really any worse, right?
Yeah.
If there's two of you involved, which there always has been when I've owned some, I've always owned it with somebody else.
Yeah. So
if you get an AED, an airworthiness directive on a blade or something, you're sharing that cost between two of you.
Yeah.
That way, that works brilliantly.
Everything's 50% off.
If you want to do it on your own, you've got to be a little bit, in the world.
I remember right after you got your helicopter license, I think, you take me up in the helicopter. I'm dumb enough to go up with you.
Yeah.
And you shut off the friggin' engine. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, Watts? What are you doing? And the friggin' thing's starting to fall out of the sky. And you're telling me, no, I'm doing this on purpose. And I'm like losing my mind, like we're going to die. And then you fire it back up again and we land safely. And I'm like, I will never fly with you again.
He was always a sort of person who likes excitement, Marcel.
I like excitement. I just don't like dying in a helicopter. And shutting the motor off in midair is pretty dumb. Like at least an airplane can float like this, and land nicely. A helicopter pretty much becomes a rock when you shut the motor off.
Did we land okay? We did, didn't we?
We did, but I think I might have shat myself. I might have had a bit of a problem. Yeah. Scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, that's the way.
So what else? What else is what's the UK like? Do you struggle because of all this Brexit and EU stuff? Like, has it made it harder for you to do business in Europe?
The problem with the UK, for me anyway. I don't want to talk about anywhere else in the world because that's not for me to do so. But the problem with the UK is it is no longer what it used to be. I mean, back in 1990, it used to be work hard, play hard, right?
Yeah.
You went onto a housing estate and you saw, for example, a Range Rover on the drive, or you saw a BMW. There's a very good chance, not totally, but a very good chance that the person that was in that was a businessman or woman, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was work hard, play hard. That was it. These days, it's work hard, get screwed harder, right?
Yeah, work hard so they can play hard.
Yeah. So, and I've never really been into politics. It's not who I am. I want to see the positive in everything, but I'm struggling really badly at the moment to see any positive in anything, right?
Yeah.
And any small to medium-sized business is seriously being screwed as hard as possible. Yeah.
That's terrible.
And then, of course, a normal person living in a normal way on normal wages have been sort of, that income is being crushed.
That's terrible. It's terrible seeing what's happening. The same thing's happening in Canada and, where I'm from, as you know. But a lot of it is, again, without getting too political, but a lot of it seems to be coming down to just a way too liberal policy on immigration. You can't take a country with 25 million people and invite 25 million more in who half of those people, by the way, if you've got social medicine, which you do and Canada does, they've never been to a doctor in their life. And now they come in and it's all free. They're like, hell yeah, I'm going to the doctor. And now you can't see the doctor anymore.
I think one thing sums things up with, like I say, without getting personal, political, but
even though we are
a normal person, unfortunately in the UK, if they have to go to a doctor, it's pretty difficult to do that at the moment.
Yeah.
It's
you got to pay.
in, and it's just really quite difficult.
Yeah.
For people that are coming into the country, it seems to be that they get put up in a nice hotel and have 24 degrees of heat where everyone else is.
Isn't that brutal?
And they've got private healthcare. And that seems to me a little weird.
It seems unfair, doesn't it?
It just seems
I think this is common in politics and in government and stuff. So we go too far one direction where, there's people dying in the streets in Africa and different countries and stuff, and we turn away and don't look at them and don't help them. And then we suddenly hit the brakes on that, which is the right thing to do. And we say, hey, let's do our part to help them. And then we go extreme in the other direction.
Yeah.
And
to be the way.
And, like United States is a perfect example too. We have almost 40 trillion in debt, yet people are screaming because we're not sending more money to Ukraine or to other countries, right? So how can you, if my friend comes to me and I'm 40 trillion in debt and he asks me to borrow $5, I'm going to give him one of these, because it's, how can I lend you $5 if I have no money and I'm massively in debt? I'm not in a position to loan you money.
Very good, very, very good friend, Mick Ventola, who's an incredibly good friend of mine. He's a businessman. He's Italian, clearly.
Yeah.
His mum and dad, they came into the country, and when they came into the country, they were told, when you get here, you got to work, and you got to work hard. If you don't work hard, you're not staying here.
Yeah,
and
good.
So,
I like that.
One became, I think, worked in the service industry doing the laundries and stuff for hotels and stuff, and the other, I think, became a baker or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they worked, and Mick, they installed into him that he had to be a super grafter. And I would say Mick works harder probably than I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the culture that you want, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, he's paying his taxes and paying them well. His mum and dad have paid the taxes for their lives, and they've been an asset on every level, right? And I think that's where it should be in life, isn't it?
But I hate to be negative. That's so rare right now. It is just so rare right now.
It is.
And I'm not saying it's all young people. I'm not saying it's all foreign people. I'm not saying it's all anything. I'm just saying, as far as a general cultural thing, it's rarer to have that type of, what can I do for you? What can I do for you versus what can you do for me?
When I first started Abstract, right, this was the reality of it. We had 78 employees at one point, which was a good number of people, 78 people.
Yeah.
But I used to be able to, if somebody annoyed me, I used to be able to go and grab them by the ear, pull them into my office and give them a right, tell them, right? And they'd accept it and they'd go out and they'd go back to work. Where in today's, you can't do that. And it doesn't seem, I know you might think, well, that seems a bit unreasonable, but when people work for you, you're paying them money for a service, aren't you? Right?
Yeah.
So let's say you're paying $20 an hour, right? You want 1 hour's work for your $20, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, most people work half of that.
Yeah.
Really, now you're paying them £40 or $40 an hour, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm coming from? So
no, I know exactly where you're coming from, and it's a sad state. But the good news is, though, that mentality creates a lot of opportunity for kids like yours and mine,
it does,
who work their ass off for that $20. They will. What they'll do is they'll say, "I'm going to give you an hour and a half for $20."
That's what you want, because that's what's going to,
of course,
you to
your.
That's going to make you the one person underneath the managing director, and if not the managing director,
of course, no, and it's just going to make you a winner in life, as opposed to the opposite. So, yeah, I mean, again, I think we went too far off into the politics, but it's frustrating because, especially, I live with a British woman, and she's sick to her stomach because she's our generation, she's our age, and she misses the England that she grew up in. She grew up in London, and it's not the same place that it was when she grew up. And of course, people say, well, that's progress. Things move forward. You don't want anything to sit still, but it's not moving forward. It's moving a different direction. And so maybe it's moving forward for some people, but I don't think it's moving forward for all people. And so
I don't think we can change any of this. I mean, that's the true reality.
Well, I was listening to a Piers Morgan Was it Piers Morgan? No, it wasn't. No, it was Jordan Peterson, Canadian. I don't know if you know who he is, but he does a podcast and writes books and stuff. But he interviewed, and I don't know who this woman is, but she's a black lady, I think maybe from Nigeria, who is, I believe she's the head of the Conservative Party in the UK right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I can't remember her name, but I listened to about half the podcast. Very sensible young lady. And, you know,
I don't really get into politics too much because
you don't?
I'm not really that. I don't
No,
know.
I never was either until it really started costing me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I just
when I couldn't afford my employees' health insurance anymore, I went, wait a second, what's going on here? There's something going on, and I need to pay attention. But I mean, what I'm saying is, I do think there's hope coming up in the young people.
100%.
I think there's some new generation stuff coming up where they're coming up with the same work ethic that we had.
Yeah.
Very smart, want to do better, want to change things for the better. And, you know, like I heard her on this podcast and she was saying, when I came to the UK in 1996, it's not like that anymore. Well, try thinking back to 1976, you know, it was way different back then. And so I you know, again, I think I'm an optimist. I know I'm an optimist. So I always think that it's going to improve. And I think, you know, some of the young people coming up right now, and you know, there's a lot of young people coming up in the U.S. Political system as well, who I think are going to be very strong in the future.
Yeah.
And they're going to help bring things back to some level of normalcy. And so I think the same in the UK, hopefully in Canada, I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting. But there's this thing going on. I don't know if you've seen it between Canada and the U.S. right now, where it's becoming.
I've noticed that it's a little bit horrible. Because to me, in America, they are as one, really. In my mind,
of course, yeah. Well, right. but legally they're not, and so the current president obviously is just basically saying, hey, you know, we've given you a lot of free stuff, and we want payback on that now. Yeah. And that has become very, very political because he's. You know, he doesn't say things in pleasant ways. You know, he like if you know, he'll just say it how he feels and how it is or whatever, right? But it's created this grift between Canada and the US, and Canadians are just basically like Americans are mean and nasty. And I'm Canadian and American, right? I have both passports.
From both sides.
But I also am taking it from both sides, you know, because my family and friends know who I voted for. And you know, so sometimes, I don't know, it just doesn't feel good. Like, I wish we could get past this part right now because it feels really...
No, I totally agree with that. They just get me chargers plugged in because it's saying...
Is your computer blinking? Yeah.
We don't want that to happen, do we? Because that
we don't. You wouldn't be the first one, though, remarkably.
Right, see that.
Well,
there we go.
My podcast is called Geezers of Gear, Steve. So we do get some older folks on here who don't really know how to work their computer very well, and so sometimes
but it's on now and it's charging beautifully, so real good.
Yeah, it gets a bit sketchy at times. So,
but that's because you see. Like if my son was doing this computer stuff, it'd be all sorted and organised, right?
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, what's this button do? What's that one do?
I'm pretty good at it.
You've had a bit
good with my. Yeah, and I don't, you know, like you've always had employees, so you could call somebody in to fix your stuff, right? I can't. You know, I have no employees here. My employees are scattered around the world.
If I was to challenge you, right, and say how you see the entertainment industry moving forward, you know, with AI and all of these things that's happening, how do you see the future of
well, you know,
industry?
It's a great question because I'm constantly talking about that kind of stuff, and I see it very different. You know, I think we're going to have AI-enabled light fixtures. I think we're going to have AI-enabled all kinds of things. So you're going to have less brains in the control system, probably more brains in the light. So if you think back to the Twister with the really smart sound-to-light chip in it, you're going to have Twisters that are able to look out at the dance floor, figure out the dimensions of the dance floor, and adjust their movement based on the dimensions of the dance floor. And they'll be able to not only pick up the beat of the music, but the genre of the music. Oh, this is reggae, so I should probably, do this type of movement or not move at all and just change color or whatever. And so you're going to have AI-enabled products across the board, whether it's speakers or sound or lighting or control systems or whatever. I think we're going to keep seeing smarter and smarter controls. And I think the people running those controls are probably going to have to do less tedious work. And so right now it all sounds very threatening to people. I think they're thinking, programmers are not going to be necessary anymore because, AI is going to do all the programming.
So it could feel very threatening to...
It does, yeah. It does to a lot of people.
LDs are, in reality, a kind of very powerful commodity within the entertainment industry because they will decide what fixtures they're going to use, which then generates that the hire companies have got to have the stock of those type of fixtures.
Yeah.
That and
I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon because I think someone's always going to have to sort of read the room, speak with the artist, speak with the production manager, figure out what the budget is. Like, yes, could you have an AI LD? Probably, but it just, I think that's a relationship that's going to stay in the loop. When you talk about the operator though and the programmer, like I don't think it's much different than anything else. Like I just think that we're going to be advancing to a point where we don't have to be the guy working the shovel anymore because now you have front end things with the scoop on the front of it, those tractor things, whatever they're called, caterpillars. And so we don't have to dig holes as much as we used to, or we don't have to.
Will assist the LDs and the programmers and all the rest of it to make things quicker and probably become more efficient.
Do you use AI at all yet? No.
The new stuff that's coming, clearly, obviously, that's why I asked the question.
No, I mean yourself, just for your day-to-day work.
Yeah, we started to experience and work with AI, but I'm not using it in any accounting or anything like that. I'm not doing that.
I mean, you and I should have an offline conversation someday because, like, for example, I will, like, we do, because my staff are all completely remote all over the world. I don't have any staff in the same room as me at any time. And so all of our business operates around a platform called Roam, which is a virtual platform.
Yeah.
And so I can look and see who's in their offices in my office building on my screen, and I can go knock on somebody's door and say, hey, how are you? And we'll talk. We'll have a conversation just like I'm in his office, right? Well, the system takes notes on every one of those calls. Wow. And so after the call, the next day, a month from now, I can go back to those meeting notes because I don't have to write any notes anymore. Wow. I can go back to those notes and I can say, what was Steve saying about the twister? Why was the sound to light better in that twister? I can just ask it a question and it'll say, great question. He looked at this little moving flower thing and he took the chip out of it and it had this incredible chip in it that did things like this and this and this, and that's why it was better. So you can just ask questions of it. And so that is something, I use that all day, every day, and so another thing it could do is, let's say you have a meeting with one of your engineers, for example, and they're not doing a very good job and there's a lot of problems with the fixtures. And you could have a meeting with that person and it takes notes. And after that meeting, you could simply say, should I fire him or not?
And then it'll tell you,
he's got really good ideas when it comes to this, this, and this, and he made a mistake over here and here, but I think he covered it up with some really good information. And based on the history, you say that he's been with the company for 17 years and blah, blah, blah. I would give him another chance, but here's a step-by-step plan you should put in place. 1, make sure he shows up for work on time. 2, make him read this book.
Is 3,
that... Oh my God, it's unbelievable. So it's my best employee now. Don't tell my staff that, but it is my best employee. I use it all day, every day for so many different things. I don't know. You probably haven't seen it, and I'll tell you what. I'll do one for you. So I do an AI podcast now, not me podcasting about AI, a podcast completely done by AI. So the logo is AI, the intro music is AI, and the podcasters, it's a man and a woman, and it's 100% AI. And so you could send me a press release or some documents about a new product or something, and these people will put together like a 15 or 20-minute podcast to talk about those products. They'll be like, oh my God, have you seen this new Abstract Twister 97.5? It is unbelievable. Oh yeah, it's just like the old Twisters, but it's LED. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And it does this.
Flower in it.
It's got the dancing bloody flower. But it's so damn cool. And
on the next light, it's going to say on the back, powered by the dancing flower.
Perfect. Why don't you just do a light called the dancing flower?
That's brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That could be, that's a perfect 35th celebration light, isn't it? The dancing flower.
The dancing flower. Yeah.
It's got a ring to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dancing flower.
Yeah. You just got to figure out what is a dancing flower.
100 dancing flowers on the tour.
Yeah. That's hilarious. But yeah, so I use it constantly for all kinds. You know, I had a slight medical problem this week, and I had to go I did some testing, and I think basically, because I'm pretty healthy, believe it or not, I'm probably 35 pounds lighter than I was last time you saw me, and I exercise every day, I eat right, I live pretty well now, but I take a bunch of supplements.
Yeah.
And I think what I did is I've added a couple supplements, and I think there's a conflict in there somewhere, and it's caused my blood pressure to start spiking.
Oh, wow.
And just right after, I'll drink a smoothie and I'll take my supplements, and boom, my blood pressure jumps up. So
yeah.
What I've done is I've loaded in these like 12 supplements that I take
into AI,
and I've said, I'm having a problem with blood pressure. Can you tell me what might be happening? I mean, it gave me like, I'll tell you what, I'll send you the link. You can see what it says, and you'll be like, holy shit.
Really?
It's wild. It is wild.
And it's told you how to fix it.
Told me how to fix it. It gave me a point-by-point plan on what to try. Here's the probable culprits. So try eliminating this one first and then this one. And yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's so good. One of the challenges, it lies to you occasionally. So if it doesn't know an answer, it won't say, I don't know. It'll make one up.
Oh, really? Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. So sort of like a guy you and I know, he would do the same thing. He would always do the same thing. He would just make up a bullshit answer, and you'd be like, well, it sounds smart. I guess he's telling the truth.
Must be right.
Yeah. But so, you know, I like, if you ever want to really jump in and start using some AI stuff on your day-to-day, let's jump on a different call.
That'd be great.
I'll go through 4 or 5 things that you could start using that'll change your life. I promise.
Oh my God. Yes. That's brilliant.
Like, even, you know what you could do? You could go to your fridge and you could take a picture of the inside of your fridge and say, here's all the food I've got. Tell me some things that I could make.
What?
And it will. Swear to God. Or you could take a picture of your spice rack and say, these are the spices I have. What could I put together with these spices and a couple steaks? You know?
I know, do it for you. Oh my God. That's just insane.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, imagine having a tool that has access to all the world's information, and all you need to do is ask a question and it can answer it. That's what it does. And that's on the simplest level. Like, it does so much more than that. So, yeah, I mean, you can have it look at, here's all the files I've got stored about the Twister. Can you read all of these different documents and then tell me what the next Twister, which I want to call the dancing flower, what should it be?
What should it be? It'll tell you.
It'll tell you.
That's just fantastic, isn't it?
It'll tell you. Yeah. No, it's insane.
What you need to do is you need to get AI to scan all 300 podcasts, right? And then tell it to make its own podcast up.
It's funny because we're actually working on something there, my friend.
That is brilliant. It scans all podcasts.
Yeah.
Out of all, and makes it like spurious.
That's a lot of work, though, because what you'd have to do is you'd have to download the transcripts for all 300 podcasts and then have it review all of those transcripts. Because you can get it to watch YouTube videos, and based on these YouTube videos, tell me blah, blah, blah. Like I could put in a video of this podcast that we're doing right now. I could just put the link to the video in a certain AI app I've got, and it'll watch the video and basically tell me, the 10 cool things that we talked about or whatever. Or it could do a podcast about this podcast.
So,
right?
I just showed you the where the future's going, isn't it?
Exactly. So all I can tell you is for sure it's going to be different. I'm not so big on like these virtual concerts and stuff where people wear like those meta things on their face and they go stand in a crowd and this is a concert. No, I think there's always going to be live bands on stage, audience over here, and like, I don't know, like maybe custom mixes. I could see people going to concerts with headphones on instead of just blasting the sound out at them. I think there's going to be some sound things. Like right now, a lot of the sound technology is going to like these multiple points, smaller speakers, but lots of them.
Yeah.
Where you're completely surrounded by sound everywhere, like the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Yeah. I'm going to go there. Hopefully later this year.
Yeah.
So
are you going to be at LDI this year?
No, I'm not going to. I won't be there. But
bummer.
Yeah, we're just going to go on holiday. We're going to go holiday in. I'm going to go to Vegas and what have you.
Yeah,
so, all good.
That'll be fun. Well, I mean, it's certainly been a blast catching up with you.
Yeah, and you too, Marcel. Brilliant. Thank you.
And we should have a longer personal call at some point, and we can talk about AI and we can tell the real truth about what we think of the industry. And
absolutely.
Just kidding. I love the industry. It is a fun industry. If you have to do something, this is a pretty fun place to do it,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the reality is this industry is, it's billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? There's not many other industries that really expand out as massively as what entertainment does, because it just captivates everything, doesn't it? From truck drivers to cooks to pilots, everything.
Yeah. It's huge,
right?
Yeah.
So
no, and you don't feel that. Like when you go to a trade show or something, it feels like a really small industry, and you know all the people in it.
Right.
Like I know everyone in this industry, right?
Yeah.
But even that's changing. Like as we get older, there's 3 generations under us now, and so even that's changing. Like I walk around trade shows and go, I don't know anyone here.
When we first brought out the X-Lights, right? Some of the first customers were sons and daughters, of those
companies you used to work with,
because the parents used to have Abstract.
That's wild. That's really cool.
Because the parents had Abstract, and
Abstract, the generational brand.
And the thing with Abstract is
bridging generations with Abstract.
Well, well, that's kind of it. But they always say one thing is that the product never breaks.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of truth behind that.
Well, you know what I mean. At the end of the day, like you take a lot of pride. You've been doing it a long time. Every fixture, every product that goes out of that factory, you've touched it or looked at it or something,
That's pretty much it. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's meaningful. That's meaningful. I love buying local. I love buying, but in our industry, it's getting harder and harder. Like look at a country and a market the size of the U.S. There's not that many U.S. manufacturers anymore. Very few.
Very few. It might change now under the new regime.
Who knows? Like, I think that's a lot of noise right now that'll probably quiet down. But
I think it needs to slightly.
Yeah.
Hey,
all right, Steve.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Good to see you. And I hope to see you in real life at some point here.
Absolutely.
My girlfriend's going to London on Thursday to see her mom, but I'm not going with her this time, so
you stay at home.
I'll stay at home.
Hope you enjoy your cabin anyway.
I'm not there. I'm in Florida right now.
Oh right, so you're not over there.
I go to Canada in like June, May or June.
It's lovely. It's a lovely place, isn't it?
It is nice. You should come up there.
Yeah,
come up and visit.
It looks to me somewhere really special.
It is. You should come and visit. And I have loads of space too, so you could have your own floor in it.
Oh, wow. That's how
You got your own, it's not a big floor, but it is a floor.
Oh, the floor, right?
The floor is a floor. You got your own floor. Yeah. All right,
Thank-
mate.
I really appreciate it, mate.
All right. See you later.
Cheers, mate.
And today's podcast, episode number 300, is also brought to you by GearSource. Founded in 2002 with an ambitious mission to support live event businesses buy and sell gear globally. Since that time, the company has transacted in more than 100 countries, selling $250 million in sound, lighting, staging, and video gear. GearSource continues to evolve the platform for massive global growth, enabling localized currencies, payments held in escrow to protect buyers and sellers, AI-powered logistics behind a new global logistics brand, and so much more. The company has just released massive new features, including GearSync, with the ability to manage up to 400 listings at once, and NeedZone, an automated shopping assistant for hard-to-find items. Take full control over your gear with a visit to gearsource.com. Today's podcast is brought to you by a brand new Giza Gear sponsor, Artistry in Motion. When it's time to make a moment unforgettable, Artistry in Motion delivers. Since 1994, they've been the go-to source for top-tier confetti and streamer special effects, turning ordinary events into explosive, show-stopping experiences. From concerts and TV production to major sporting events and theme parks, they bring the wow factor with precision and creativity. Whether you need a massive stadium drop or a subtle, picture-perfect cascade, they make it happen on time every time. Their team doesn't just supply confetti, they collaborate with show designers, event planners, and production teams to ensure every effect is camera-ready and crowd-approved. Want to take your next event to the next level? Hit them up at artistryinmotion.com and make memories happen.